So I have Coach JP Glasscock here from Saddleback Junior College. He's the pitching coach. Going to be asking him a couple questions. First question I have for you, JP, is how did you get into coaching? What made you want to start coaching in the first place?
I got into coaching. I played a long time ago. Didn't really play growing up. I played basketball growing up, and then I kind of found a love for the game when I was about 18, senior year in high school. Played for a short time in the minors. Didn't throw a lot of strikes. You know that. Didn't throw a lot of strikes, so kicked around the minors for about 4 years, and that was about it. And then I got out of baseball and went right into the workforce. So I did start doing commercial, industrial, electrical work, which paid well, but at the same time, it just wasn't my passion. I kind of always found myself coming back to the game, baseball. So I'd always given lessons and things like that. And then I just decided to call it what it was. In 2009, I got out of my job that I was in, which was a great job, but went back to school, got some certifications, and then from there just kind of threw my hat into really doing more private lessons, did some strength conditioning stuff as part of my certifications, got into biomechanical analysis, which I still do. And then after that, I got looped into my full-time coaching gig, actually in 2014 with a high school. And I really didn't want to do it, to be honest with you. I really didn't want to do it at all. But I got looped into it, and I promised the head coach, I was like, hey, we're going to finish with a sub-2 ERA this year. Kind of like a joke. But we finished with a 1.88 ERA, and we ended up taking second in the state.
Yeah,
so it was a cool experience. And then after that, we decided to move out here, back to California. And then I just landed here in 2015, so 2016.
No, it sounds like definitely an awesome journey.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with that being said, obviously it was a joke, but to say, hey, we're going to have a sub-2 ERA as a staff, it's a huge accomplishment itself. Because you have to do some things on your end as well as the boys doing things on their end.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street. So how would you say that your personal philosophy, your life philosophy, how you just go about your everyday business, how would you say that affects how you coach?
I think a lot of it is I try and make sure the guys understand my faults that I had as a player and that I have as a person as well. So I try and make myself a person to them first, because that's the first way I look at as the guys, the kids, or the men that I'm coaching, or the young men that you're coaching, is that they are people and they do have emotions and that they do have everyday problems. And there are sometimes things that are bigger than the game that come to the ballpark with them. So I think probably one of the biggest things I try and do here at the college, and what I've always done, is try and make it a consequence-free environment and have them really understand, hey, if we do this, this is going to happen. If we do this, more than likely this is going to happen. But have them also understand that you can do everything right, you can work your hardest that you possibly can, you can do everything that you're told or a coach tells you to do, whether it's taking care of your arm, taking care of your body, taking care of things in the classroom, and it still doesn't work out.
Right.
Sometimes you can do all the right steps and it still doesn't work out. And I think if they understand that, they still have to also understand that, hey, I still have to know that even if somehow I can predict the future and it's not going to work out, I still got to put in the work. I still have to put in the time. And some guys understand that. Some guys don't. You know, I always tell them, hey, if you knew this wasn't going to work out, would you still work hard? And by and large, most of the time the answer I get is yes, because you never know. You just never know. So I think a lot of it comes down, for me, my own personal philosophy. I try and make it consequence-free, because I think they're putting enough pressure on themselves as it is, especially nowadays with social media, and everybody has to go. Everyone has to be 1-1. Everybody has to be on the cover of Baseball America and all that stuff. When the reality is I think a lot of these guys have all the potential in the world. I think every one of these guys that walk through here and play have a potential to keep moving on. But I don't know, I guess long answer to a short question. Probably my own personal philosophy is I try and show them some of the things that I did wrong,
right,
and try and make it a consequence-free environment.
So then with the things with your own flaws and being transparent and being vulnerable with these boys, now obviously we don't want to live in our imperfections and just say, oh, this is who I am, kind of thing. We're doing our best to be the best version of ourselves every day, or at least I would hope we're doing that as coaches. So what would you say in recognizing those flaws and shortcomings that you have? What would you say that you do on a daily basis to be the best version of yourself, to get the best out of these boys here? Because obviously as coaches, you know, just like players, we don't want to show up to the ballpark every day either. We have those days where it's like, I don't really feel like being here. You know, so even when you have those kinds of days, what are you doing to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do today to be my best, even though I'm not, and this is what I'm going to get out of them?
What I do is I make sure that each one of those guys know that they're important.
Mm-hmm.
I treat each one of them as an individual. Are there some categories they can be lumped into as far as like physically how they move?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You know that. We can all sit there and talk, well, this guy is probably this guy. But the reality is, for me, is I try and make sure everybody has time.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets their fair share of time. Nobody gets left behind.
Right.
And I've found that. I mean, that's not something that I think I thought of. It's just something I know for me as a player,
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted to have. Like, if I had a question, I would like it to be answered. I don't want any of these guys to feel like there's a question that they can ask me that I don't have the answer to.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't know it, I'll tell them I don't know it.
Right.
But I can find somebody a lot smarter than me who can answer that for me.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can talk to an individual and be like, hey, well, maybe we should work this out. Or hey, maybe we can get together with him and we can come up with a plan. So always trying to work towards a plan, and always have them know that, hey, you know, there's not anything that you're just gonna have to show up here and just kind of meander through and find it on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's trial and error, of course, but
Right.
at the same time, I want to let those guys know that I have an answer for you. I'm here for you. I'm here to help. If you need anything, you know, come to me. You know, and if I can't help you, I'll find somebody who will.
Right.
So,
what are you doing to be the best version of yourself in that situation?
showing up every day. I haven't missed a practice. I have not missed one practice. If I have missed a practice, I can't remember, to be honest with you. The other day I showed up to practice at 102-degree temperature. I'm not going to miss practice.
Yeah.
I just won't. And the reason why is because, especially here in the fall, I know that sounds a little ridiculous to say that, but here in the fall, it's like I have 27 guys. And each one of those guys are trying to make the squad. And for me personally, if I expect them to do certain things, I have to live up to those exact same standards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being on time, busting your ass, paying attention, wanting something greater than the game. You know, I'd much rather see these guys be good people as opposed to great baseball players. That sounds crazy, but that's the level that we're at, without a doubt. You know, so I think for me is try and set a good example. You know, try and, you know, have them understand that, hey, you know, hey, JP is trying to help us out. He does have a plan for us every single day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if he does see me throwing weird, he does come over and say something to me. I mean, so for me, it's like really trying to be involved. So personally, just being present and caring, I think that goes a long way. Because and I'm sure you have too, I've known coaches that are incredibly knowledgeable,
Right.
very smart, very, very bright. And pretty much they really do have an answer for you. But as far as like a people person, they're not.
Right.
You know, they have a hard time getting their point across, or they're arrogant, or they're smug. I've known people who don't have a whole lot of knowledge of the game, or how the body moves, or what have you, or whatever there's in their specific category of discipline, infield coach, outfield coach, whatever. But man, they show up and they love every minute of it, and they stay late, and they
Right.
show up early, you know, and things like that, and people see that, you know. And I think just having that understanding of you're trying to make an impact on somebody's life, or you're just trying to help somebody out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. It's something that I struggle with daily myself, trying to make sure that I'm the best version of myself every day, even when I have my own bad days.
Yeah, and you're not going to be that. You're not. I mean, I wish every day you could wake up and put your feet on the ground and feel like you feel like you conquer the world every single day. But
Right.
I don't. You know, I sometimes I drive here, and it's not that I don't ever want to be here, but sometimes I'm like, is this it?
Yeah.
Is this, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
You know, and then I show up here, and before you know it, I got 20-some guys looking at me, and I'm like, well, this is not too bad.
Yeah.
Pretty good gig. You know, and you get to see people grow in front of you. You get to see kids grow up in front of you. You get to see guys that come in here as overlooked freshmen who nobody wanted build themselves into something.
Right.
And, you know, not to be selfish, to be like you had something in that, but it was just like you got to watch that. You know, it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat.
You mentioned a little bit of your background having to do with some biomechanical research, stuff like that, and then you also touched on in the last question that a lot of coaches are very knowledgeable and they can spit out facts and information and stuff like that. And in today's baseball world, there's become such a melting pot of information.
Yeah.
Whether it's from, NPA and Tom House, or it's Kyle Bodie and Driveline, or Texas Baseball Ranch, or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
My last question would be how do you go about processing what's out there? How do you decide for yourself what you feel is something that will actually work, and how do you implement that?
That's a tough question. That's a really, really tough question. I face that every single day. I have guys who have different pitching coaches. I have guys who have heard different philosophies. I have kids that get primarily a lot of their information off of Instagram, different social media outlets. And hey, let's not fool ourselves. That's not going away.
Right.
That's not going away.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, what you want to make sure that you're trying to do is have them understand that if you're a particular type of guy and you've gotten results, and it's hard to say if you've gotten results to a freshman in college, because the reality is he's 18 years old, and sometimes you're looking at, what do you know? What do you know? But hey, some of these kids are pretty regimented with some of the things that they've done.
Yeah.
And I've had them all. I've had kids who are the Driveline kids. I've had kids of the NPA Velocity kids. I've had kids of the Texas Baseball Ranch kids. I've had kids who've gone seen guys around here privately who are good instructors. Mm-hmm. I think at the end of the day, the situation that I'm sitting in particular, how I work around that is, how do you feel when you throw? Are you having any arm pain? Mm-hmm. Have you seen results? And I think most of the time, those things, if I can kind of answer those 3 questions and get a straight answer out of a kid, or I can see a kid actually have an idea of how to make adjustments, most of the time I'll kind of leave them alone. I mean, don't get me wrong, I see them every single day. And some of the guys that they see outside of here, or some of the influences they have outside of here, might see them once a week. Mm-hmm. And then before you know it, you're kind of like, well, I appreciate the outside help that you're getting, and I don't want to run interference with anybody else, because I'm an instructor as well, and,
right.
and when I'm working with a kid, the last thing I want to do is run interference with his coach. The last thing I want to do is step on somebody's toes. Baseball's a small world, one. Yeah. But number 2 is, if he's doing something well, or he's in a good groove, and he's feeling good, what's wrong? I'm probably just going to confuse the kid.
Right.
So it's tough. That's a really good question, and I wish that question would get posed more to people that are in situations of coaching at a college or a high school. Mm-hmm. It's like you're one coach and you're in charge of trying to make 15 guys get on the squad, make your squad for you as a pitching staff, or 14 right. or whatever it is, and they have all these other outside influences. How do you get them to listen to you, or how do you get them to say, well, hey, maybe he has an idea of what's going on? My answer to that would probably just be time, and to develop that trust, and to try and develop that respect. That's hard. It's hard because there are some kids that, just in the 8 weeks that we've been doing here in the fall, I look at him and I can tell that he either doesn't A, want to believe anything I have to say, or B, can't wait till he gets out of here to go work with his own private guy. Right. But we had an incident the other night, I don't know if you can put this on film, that a kid who he walked 4 people in the inning. Mm-hmm. And the first thing he says to me when he comes in, and I was like, hey, how'd you feel, bud? Oh, I felt like I was missing up a lot. I go, it's probably early extension with your arm. It's probably something lower. I go, we'll dig into it on Monday. Just get your recovery in right now. And he goes, yeah. He goes, but hey, I touched 89 once, and I was 86, 88 a couple pitches. And I was like, but you walked 4 people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I feel a lot better when I kind of just rear back and throw as hard as I can. I go, okay, all right. So to me, when I heard that, the first thing I thought was, I was like, okay, 18 years old, just jumped in his velocity a little bit, has been working with a guy for a little bit, and he's seen some results. That's fine, but he's playing a different game than everybody else.
Right.
We're not playing the velocity game. It's awesome, and I know I love velocity as well. Sure. But at the end of the day, it's like we need people to get guys out. We got a left-handed guy who can even throw 80 miles an hour. He's getting people out left and right.
Yeah.
He'll pitch for us this year. This kid who's throwing the ball over the place, touching 89, that's great. I don't know what he's going to do for us.
Yeah.
You understand? You totally understand what I'm saying. But yeah, that's a tough question to answer. That's a really good question, JJ. It's a really tough one to answer, because at the end of the day, you want to please everybody, but at the same time, it's like, I think you lean on this. If you're going to edit this all out, I think you always lean on what's medically backed, what research shows. Period. try not to do anything fly by night, and try not to do anything that is just something you tear off of YouTube and be like, let's try this for a week and see what happens. Well, this doesn't work, let's try this. I think you have to get a philosophy and stick with it. If you're a long toss guy, long toss. If you're a weighted ball guys, do weighted balls, but do them safely.
Sure.
You know, if you're neither one, if you walk on top, you know, walk with your hands, you walk on your hands and that works, and keeps you safe, well, then do that. You know, but that's a tough fucking question.
Yeah. No, I mean, we could obviously sit here and talk pitching for hours.
Yeah, you know that.
I'll get into. We've obviously done that before, but so I guess I'll just get into my last question. Is I have my resume here.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of want you to take a look at it and see if there's anything that I can improve on. What's good, what's not so good, or things that I could add to it to get to your level of being a pitching coach. Obviously, being in high school is one thing, but being a pitching coach in college is a different ball game.
I would say probably narrow down your focus.
Okay. In what way?
Narrow down your focus on where you're at right now, unless it's a money thing. Narrow down your focus right now. Figure out, really go home and ask yourself a question of where does your passion lie?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you're doing right now, getting your sports psychologist is you'll already have a leg up on just probably about 90% of the baseball community
Right.
itself. And on top of it, what your background here shows on your resume as far as how many years you've played and how many years you've coached with various organizations or under different schools.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that right away is, I think right now probably narrowing your focus down is like what are you?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a pitching coach? Are you a sports psychologist? Are you both? Are you MPA velocity guy? Like what is it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably narrowing it down to one, maybe two, and calling it good. And the other thing is don't worry about what other people think about you. You never, you know, if you try and be everything to everybody, you end up being nothing to nobody. You know, like I figured that out like the past probably 6-7 years of my life. Stop trying to maybe please everybody, and just I don't know, just do what you believe in. Do what your heart tells you. And that sounds really cliche and corny, but I'm telling you right now, when you do that, a lot of the noise goes away. You don't worry a whole lot.
Well, thanks, JP. I really appreciate your time and the talk.
No problem, man.